Recap of Chapter 7, One Crazy Summer. Here's what we know so far. Delphine, Vanetta, and Fern have the habit of listening in and discovering information from the adults around them. Cecile is visited by three members of the Black Panther and have a forceful discussion with her. They refer to Cecile as Inzilla. Cecile finally agrees to the demands of the Black Panther. In, in exchange, they take her daughter, her girls. Our lens for Chapter 8 is that readers will pay attention to the character traits, relationships, the point of view of the narrator, and possible themes, as well as any changes to the story elements. So let's get into Chapter 8, Glass of Water. If we were at home with Pa and Big Ma, we would have been bathed and in bed an hour and 5 minutes ago. But we weren't in Brooklyn. We were in Oakland with Cecile. I glanced at my trusty Timex. I wasn't mad that Vanetta had gotten the Timex with the pink wristband and couldn't hold on to it, while mine was plain brown and still on my arm. My brown leather wristband is just fine. It's the clock part that matters anyway. I can count on it to keep things running on schedule. So I'm gonna stop here and just kind of point out some character work. Delphine takes care of her watch, whereas Vanetta had lost her Timex watch, and we see that the sisters are different, right? We know that Vanetta is more of an outgoing kind of character, right? And she's kind of girly, and now she has this pink wristband. Even that, you can tell how the sisters are different. Let's continue. Its waterproof face told me what I needed to know at 9:35 in the evening. That it took 3 minutes for warm water and a handful of Tide soap powder to make the right amount of suds. 15 minutes was enough time for the day's dirt to fall to the bottom of the tub, while Vanetta and Fern styled bubble beehive hairdos on their heads and beards on each other's on each other. But giving them 1 minute longer and I'll end up pulling Fern off of Vanetta and mopping up sups of water. So the setting in this part is Delphine and her sisters are in the bathroom, and she's timing her sisters, making sure that they take their bath, and she gives them a set time. She prepares the bath for them as well. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind where this is taking place. Let's continue. After I got my sisters in, out, dried, and lotioned, I took my bath, setting my watch on the porcelain edge to keep an eye on my own 12 minutes in the tub. The watch part might have been waterproof, but the plain brown leather band didn't care for soap and hot water. Bath water made the leather hard, clammy against my skin. I always took it off. So here again we hear Delphine talking about her watch, and it just shows how she is responsible. She relies on her watch, and it just lends itself to this character, how she plays the role of the mother for her sisters. Okay, let's continue. Only when I sat in the tub did I wish my Timex was not so reliable or the ticking so steady. Oh, how I wish the minute hand would slow down and give me time for a nice long soak. Wish all I wanted. I couldn't leave Vanetta and Fern alone to sort out who'd sleep at what end of the daybed. 3 extra minutes in the tub and I'll be sorry. I stuck to the schedule. So, according to Delphine, right, she knows that she can't waste time and relax and enjoy her bath because she had to be there for her sisters and watch them, right? So this just again just supports this idea of how Delphine has to be the older sister and be responsible for her sisters and play the role of a mom for them. We were in our summer 90s. Vanetta and Fern lay side by side, their elbows propped up on the higher bed, while I sat on the lower bed. Fern's eyes grew droopy. Still, she yawned and demanded story time. I opened Peter Pan, one of the books I had checked out for a 2-week loan before we left Brooklyn. I had it all worked out and counted the pages I reached each night, dividing that by 28 days. I had $2.80 in my drawer at home to pay for the late fees for the remaining 2 weeks when we returned to Brooklyn. So here we see Delphine. She's a very organized person. She plans out how many pages to read to her sisters every night, and it just shows how she is responsible. She knew that she was going to have a late fee for having the book an extra 2 weeks, so she had the money to pay what she would owe in late fees. This Peter Pan was better than Peter Pan coloring books at home. It was a real book, thick with more than 100 pages of adventure. Vanetta and Fern were soon under the spell of Peter Pan and Wendy flying like fairies. Both Vanetta and Fern gave out 3 pages sooner than I had planned. I put my bookmark, a coaster from the airplane, in the right spot and pulled the blanket over my sisters. As quiet as a spy, I unbuckled my suitcase and took out my borrowed copy of Island of Blue Dolphins. I turned off the goosenecked light floor lamp and sat in the hallway where the light beamed from the living room. Cecile was in her kitchen doing whatever she did there. I fell asleep with my book in my lap. What woke me was a thump. Through clouded, sleepy eyes, I made out the back of Fern's ruffled nightie. Her little heels were heading to Cecile's kitchen. I shook myself awake and jumped to my feet. As sure as I knew Cecile was crazy and motherly, I knew I must stop Fern. It was too late. I wasn't fast enough to catch hold of Fern's nightie. Cecile was right there guarding whatever she was hiding in her kitchen. Steeply and sweet-voiced Fern asked, "Can I have a glass of water?" Papa could never bring himself to say no to Fern. He left that to Big Mama, Vanetta, and me. But Cecile said, "Drank that water in the bathroom." "That's nasty," Fern said. "Then you ain't thirsty, little girl." "I'm not little girl, I'm Fern." She didn't mean my mouth sped to Fern's rescue, but Cecile raised her hand, stopped me. I got the message and she lowered her stop sign. "Let's get one thing straight, little girl. No one's going in my kitchen." So here we see a problem, right? That Fern wants some water, but Cecile's telling her to go drink the water from the bathroom. And it's just kind of her not wanting anyone in her kitchen, you know. Why doesn't she want anyone in her kitchen? What's the problem? What is she hiding in the kitchen? So let's kind of make a note about that. Her not wanting anyone in the kitchen. It is hard to believe The last time they had seen each other, Fern had been a loaf of bread in Cecile's arm. That was how Uncle Darnell told it to me. Some pieces of it I even remember how Cecile had nursed Fern, burped her, and placed her in her crib before leaving us. It was funny that Cecile had at least thought to give Fern a last drink, but all the same left Fern wanting her milk. Now they stood across from each other, Cecile towering over Fern with her arms crossed, and Fern looking up at Cecile. Fern balled both fists, banging them against her side like she usually did before she jumped on Vanetta. I took one of Fern's fists in my hands and eased it flat. Then I put on my talking to white folks voice and said, "Can you get her a glass of cold water?" I'm used to doing what's hard. Okay, I want to stop there for a second because something happened here between. There was this uh, confrontation between Cecile and Fern, and it was escalating, right? So we could tell that Fern was getting upset, right? So Delphine knew that Cecile was unmotherly and a cold and even a bit weird about the things that she did, but she knew she had to step in and protect her sister, or even prevent her sister from doing something that could get her in trouble, right? So let's continue. Like 3 days worth of homework in one night to catch up from being out of school sick. Like 46 push-ups in 60 seconds to win a bet with a boy. Like standing mean-mouthed over Vanetta and Fern until they swallow a tablespoon each of hard pine cough syrup. But saying please without actually saying it to someone you don't want to say please to in the first place tops the list of hard. When Cecile raised her hand, I pushed Fern back, not knowing if she raised her hand only to point down at Fern. I didn't know Cecile yet. I didn't know how mean or crazy she was. She said, "Stay out here." Then she backed into the kitchen muttering, "I didn't ask no one to send you here. No way." So boys and girls, here's this idea of Cecile not wanting the girls, right? It says she doesn't want them in her space. So this just adds to the how Cecile feels about the girls being there. She doesn't want them there. Okay, she's not ready to be a mom, or she doesn't want to be the mom to these girls, but she has them. Okay, so let's pay attention to that also as we continue reading. When the door has swung, I heard rustle between the flashes of opening and closing, like fall leaves rustling. I looked up in time to see white wings hanging from above in the quick flash of the open door. To normal kids in my classroom, that would have looked crazy. White wings hanging in the kitchen. But I remember strange things that got me laughed at in school. Things about Cecile. I had been dumb enough to volunteer facts about my mother for a show and tell. "My mother writes on cereal boxes and on walls," I said proudly in the 2nd grade, and this, the white wings hanging in her house, wasn't strange at all. It was halfway what I expected. I would hate to think she had left us to lead a normal cooking, baking, pork chop frying life. So here's another flashback of Delphine in the 2nd grade sharing details about her mom and being laughed at school by her peers in her class when she told them that her mom wrote on cereal boxes and on walls. So just keep a note of that. The sink ran full force. I heard opening and slamming, metal banging against the countertop, maybe crackling and shaking. The rocks crackling of ice in a metal tray. More opening and slamming. So this shows us that Cecile is demonstrating that she's upset and bothered that she has to give Fern water. She probably didn't want to do anything for the girls. We know that the girls have to go and get their own food, but now she has to provide Fern with water, and this even bothers her, that she has to give them water. She doesn't want anything to do with these girls. I feel bad for them. More opening and slamming again. Fern clung to my side and then inched behind me. Cecile came out holding an extra paper cup from mean Lady Ming's. Seeing Fern hiding behind me, she said, "It's too late for all of that. Here, take it." Fern stayed put, so I went to take the cup. Cecile pulled back, spilling a few drops at her feet. "Girl, you better take this if you want it." Fern's fist balled from behind her nightie, and again I reached out, but Cecile glared like, "Girl, I will knock you down." Fern stepped from behind me and took the cup from Cecile's hand. "I'm not a little girl. I'm Fern." "Well, you better drink this cup of ice water, little girl. Every last drop." Fern drank it all down without stopping, probably to prove that she could. So now I'm noticing that Fern stands up to Cecile again by telling her that my name is Fern, but Cecile refuses to call her Fern. I wonder what's that about, okay? So I'm wondering, this is the second time Fern is addressing herself as Fern, and Cecile keeps calling her little girl. Let's continue. Probably to not stand near Cecile any longer than she had to. Then she handed me the cup with ice, and I returned it to Cecile. As many times as Big Ma said it, I never fully believed it. That no one, not even Cecile, needed to have their way so badly or was so selfish that she could leave Pa, Vanetta, Fern, and me over something as small and silly as a name. That Cecile left because Pa wouldn't let her pick out Fern's name? But I saw and heard it with my own ears and eyes. She refused to call Fern by her name, and that made Big Mama right about Cecile. So the point of view here is that after noticing that Cecile is not saying Fern's name, Delphine believes the reason Cecile left Pa was because she didn't get to name Fern, and she was angry about that. She's angry about Fern not having the name that Cecile wanted for her. Okay? So here is chapter 8. Go get your notebook. Please pause the video. Alright. So I want you to jot down in your notebook who is in this chapter. Answer these 3 questions. 1, 2, and 3. And make sure you answer this question here. When she refused to call Fern by her name and instead called her little girl, what does that suggest about Cecile? Use 2 details from the text to support your response. Alright, boys and girls, we've come to the end of chapter 8. Get ready for chapter 9.